A little halftime Howie commentary. This week we had a horrible tragedy in Florida where 17 people got murdered at a school in Florida. And my feeling is the time has come. I don't want to get into a debate about guns. I don't want to get into a debate about blame. But I do want to say this. It's time to make our schools in America safe for every child in America. In my opinion, every school should have metal detectors. Every school should have an armed guard at every exit. There are a lot of retired security and a lot of retired policemen. There's no reason why every school in America should not have metal detectors and armed guards at every exit at every school. It's time to put our children and the children's safety first and make sure we never have one of these horrendous mass shootings ever again. And we dedicate today's show to all the children and all the faculty who lost their lives this week in Florida. And pray for their families and pray for those who got injured to heal as quickly as possible. All right, ladies and gentlemen, the horrible tragedy that happened in Florida, the killer, I don't want to mention his name, but he was on the spectrum, Asperger's syndrome, and that's a topic that hits near and dear to two of my staff members. There's both Rocco Passafume and Rich Kaplan, both are on the spectrum with Asperger's syndrome, and it touches their heart deeply when people make broad generalizations about people on the spectrum. So, Rocco, let's hear your thoughts on this.
Well, when I first heard about the shooting happened and they were starting to describe the shooter, I have to be honest, when I saw that, I was like, this guy sounds like he's on the spectrum. So I looked it up and, you know, I was horrified that that was the case. Because think about it, we have already, this is the third mass shooter in the last couple of years to be on the spectrum. We had Elliot Rodger, the Ala Vista Virgin killer, we had him. And then we also had, before that, we had, well actually afterwards we had Adam Lanza from Sandy Hook. So with this now, I think the real risk here is that we have the possibility of pigeonholing people on the spectrum and saying like, oh, they must, you know, there must be something wrong, particularly with that group that would make that happen. Honestly, that's not the case. I mean, you look at most people on the spectrum, they're no less individualistic than the rest of us, you know? I mean, you meet a person on the spectrum, you know, you meet one person on the spectrum, everybody's different. And I feel like that's very, very important for people to understand, you know, because we're not that, you know, not many people are really that familiar with us and what we're all about, you know, and everybody's different. We gotta be clear on that. I think it's really, really sad that such a horrific thing happened with that, with people that happen to have what we have, and I really feel like, I think it's very, very important for people to understand that we're all individuals with all this, and that, you know, just because three gentlemen happen to have this, you know, and did all this horrible stuff doesn't mean that it defines us as a spectrum and as a group of people. You know, we all are still human beings at the end of the day. We still learn a lot in our own individual lives to be as the best people we possibly can be. So I'm going to have Rich also add to that.
Yeah, Rich, your thoughts on this situation?
Being on the spectrum, I look at it as, you know, people are people. We're all different in our ways, and unfortunately, a lot of these people on the spectrum, for whatever reason, they snap. Whether it's because society doesn't recognize them for who they are, or the way they were raised, or differently. But I'm fortunate enough where I know who I am. I respect people. I love life. I love everybody around me. Love Long Beach. And you know, the big thing is that you just have to look at it as this individual was hurting. The FBI knew it. The local authorities knew who he was. it's unfortunately tragic that no one acted sooner to prevent it. I think that's really the key to all this, Howie. It's not just security guards in schools, but when the warnings come out, when you have a kid who's dressing in black or just separated from everybody, you start to wonder, well, what's wrong with this individual? Take the time to get to know them. Don't shut them out. Take the time to get to know them. They'll be less apt to want to commit a crime because they'll have people reaching out wanting to help them instead of ignoring them and driving them more to want to do this.
Absolutely, and without getting too political, the FBI came out and said they got a good tip and they missed the warning signs and they dropped the ball in this. So, but anyway, I just wanted to close up and say that Rocco and Rich have been great members of our show. They're both very good people, passionate people, creative, caring, and it was actually Rocco who's been on with me for about 7 years, who recommended that Rich join us on the show. They met on the spectrum, and they're great people. So let's not generalize and stereotype. And because I know firsthand that Rocco and Rich are great people, and there are many great people on the spectrum who are making a difference in a positive way in society. So I thank Rocco and Rich for their input on today's segment and in the future. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Excellent.